Welcome to La Prensa Popular TV. We are bringing you all the elections for 2018. Today we have Mr. Steve Fox with us, so don't change the channel. We'll be right back with you. Welcome back. So today we have Mr. Steve Fox. Thank you for coming today.
You're welcome.
So you are running for Assemblyman District number 36, correct?
36 Asambleas, sí.
Perfect. Who is Steve Fox?
Good question. I think everybody has many sides. I'm a school teacher. I've taught ESL for 10 years. I'm an attorney for 22 years. I'm a parent. I have 2 children. I'm a husband. My wife says, happy wife, happy life, and I agree with her. I'm a grandparent to 3 children, 2 daughters, 2 granddaughters, and a grandson. So I think you have to look at family, which is muy importante, and you look at your trabajo, your work, and you look at what you've accomplished to help other people in the community.
Perfect. What are you proposing to do on district number 36?
A lot. We have a lot of problems. For one thing, I voted for and now it's a $339 billion budget. I voted both years I was in the assembly. I voted yes on the budget because it funds a lot of things. It funds, I put a new funding formula with others where Palmdale School District got more money because it had more minorities and more other factors that we were able to do. In addition, I voted for the Middle Class Scholarship Act, which gave a discount for middle class students going to universities, 10% the first year, then 20, then 30, then 40. I voted to allow the community colleges to offer some 4-year classes, and now AV College has that. I served on the Education Committee, and I served as chairman of the Community College Committee for the State Assembly. I intend to continue pushing education. Education is something they cannot take away from you. It is our future, our children's future, on whether they're going to get a good job, on whether they're going to get a nice house, they can take care of their family, and have self-pride and dignity. My opponent has voted no on the state budget for the 4 years he's been in there. That is a big difference. Who is going to fund those programs that are going to help our community? I also want to create jobs. I went into the junior college and I asked them, how many people need a job? I had 70 students raise their hand. Forgive my asthma. I got a $420 million tax credit for Lockheed Martin and Northrop Grumman to create jobs to use for an $80 billion bid for a contract which we got from the DoD, which meant jobs here. And these good jobs would also trickle down into helping restaurants and small businesses because they need other things. I was able to do that. It may not be fair, but if there was a Republican sitting here, I don't know that they would have gotten that through. Not to put my opponent down, but it was 38 bills this last term. He got 3 through. One of them was for traffic tickets. They were minimal. So there's a lot to do on jobs and education, which is the plank I ran on the first time. I also want to add safety to our schools. Again, I was a school teacher. My wife was a school teacher for 25 years. And we know it's important to make sure our schools are safe. Teachers cannot teach unless it is first safe for the students.
Let's go back to the jobs. Are you planning something to, let's say you win this turn, are you planning to bring more paying, like high paying jobs to our community?
It has to be both high paying and lower paying because you have to understand our community is a mix. You cannot just say I'm going to help one section. I was able to get through the enterprise zone when I was in there last time. The Senate had cut it out, and I went to the Senate and I lobbied till 12 o'clock at night to get them to put the Palmdale Lancaster back into the enterprise zone. What that is that businesses that are in certain areas, I believe this may be one of them, can now get a tax credit for hiring people. I think it was so much percentage the first year, then the second year, and it was kind of a staggered tax cut so that you'd have an incentive to keep the person. So now a person can go to a job and says, hire me, I'm a tax credit. That was not for higher paying jobs, that was for lower paying jobs. My Northrop Grumman and Lockheed Martin type bill was for the higher paid jobs, but that would trickle down and help the smaller companies. You cannot just say, I want to help one segment of the population. You have to look at most of our population may not, unfortunately, have the higher paying jobs. I would like to see all jobs be mortgage paying jobs so you can afford to pay your mortgage. That would be the goal.
Perfect. Let's talk about a little bit about immigration, even though this is a federal topic. How would you be working with our congressman to help out the immigrant community within your district?
Well, it's an interesting question. You put the condition preceding to work with the congressman. You can do stuff without working with the congressman and still help. And they're not immigrants; they're just undocumented workers. They're human beings. You cannot label them the way that they're being labeled. And the answer is, when I was in the state assembly, I voted for a bill, and although our population here was not in favor of it, I believed it was important to give undocumented workers a driver's license. I voted for a second bill that the documents that you supply to get your driver's license cannot be used against you. And that was very important. The Democrats in the Assembly, for the most part, voted for it. The Republicans voted against it. And I also served as a judge pro tem for 4 years, working part-time as a traffic judge here in the Antelope Valley. And when I had a person come before me who had insurance but no license, I understood what was happening. They could get the insurance, but we had strapped their hands by not letting them get a license, so how can we blame them? So I wiped out their fines. The clerks didn't understand what I was doing as the judge, but I did, because you cannot blame people. You cannot tie their hands in their backs and say, now use them. It's not fair. So there are other things you can do. There was a bill to allocate money for legal services for kids at the border. We voted for that. There are things you can do that have nothing to do with your congressman. As far as a congressman, I actually get along with our current congressman, Steve Knight. We've actually run against each other before, and we have a friendly rivalry, and he will listen to me, so that's a good thing. I think you have to respect his position, although you may not like him. And the important thing is he may end up being in office, and if he is, we have to get things from him. We have to get his vote. His wife, Lily, was an immigrant, and I'm not pushing his campaign, but the bottom line is I can communicate with her and him, and I think that's important to get some of the things I want done, which is a reasonable pathway to citizenship. That is a fair and equitable pathway.
Sounds good. Do you support the sanctuary state that our governor has put on title for now?
I support something a lot better, which is if you're here already, then we make you part of the system. It's not, oh gee, this one part you can be protected in our state. You should be protected every place. That's an insult to say just this place. No, we have to work with it. People are here, they're actually working, and they're putting money into the system. And that has to be recognized. And therefore they have a right to get something back from the system.
Perfect. Well, we're going to have to go to a little break, so don't change the channel. We'll be right back with you.
Todo el mes de agosto podrás obtener 1000 tarjetas de presentación por tan solo $28.99. ¿Escuchaste bien? 1000 tarjetas de presentación por tan solo $28.99. Visítanos en Pandel Boulevard, en el 950 al Este, Suite E, en el segundo piso, o llama 661-380-6438. 380-6438. Para los mejores artículos publicitarios impresos, confianza y excelencia, Martínez Printing and Publishing.
All right, we are back today with Mr. Steve Fox, who is running for the Assembly for the 36th District, which covers part here of the Antelope Valley. Mr. Fox, you were talking about education on our last segment. Do you believe in dual immersion schools?
Yes, I think Sandy Corrales took me on a tour one time on one of our schools where the kids had half the day in Spanish and half the day in English. It still should be up to the parents what you're going to have your kid do and not do. Let's add that to it. But I support that because the reality is California is a majority Hispanic. Palmdale is 64% Hispanic. And if you don't learn the language, and I need to learn more than I do, and I'm the first to admit that, to survive, that's the future. And I think a politician or a businessman who doesn't realize that is hurting themselves.
Okay. Now, how will you help to bring more programs for the schools here within, your district?
I think the answer is number one, funding. that goes back to the state budget. You have to vote for it. Also letting some of the districts decide for themselves some of the programs. We could mandate certain items. I think right now it's mandated if you want to go to a four-year college, you have to learn a language anyway. So the understanding that's already in the four-year universities, this would lend itself towards funneling kids up to the four-year universities if they did have a second language.
Okay. Now let's talk safety about schools, in schools. Recently, you know, the shooting here in Highland High School happened. Manzanita School, you know, there was something going on as well. What would you propose once you get to the assembly?
People may not want to hear what I'm going to say about it. Basically infringes perhaps a little bit on their rights, but their safety of our children is the first concern. That means you have a camera in every room. That means you have metal detectors at the door. That means you have sheriffs patrolling the schools, not to hurt our children, but to protect them. If we can see on, and the other thing is the essence, a lot of children have to get a moral compass to know what's right from wrong. I'm not quite sure that's more up to the parents, but we need to tell them it's wrong to do some of the things they're doing. And I think that's probably the root of things.
Okay. Let's talk about the homeless population. It's been growing here within the Antelope Valley, all over California, basically. What would you propose to help the homeless community?
I like the movie Dave, where he says, it's Monday, everybody gets a job. So it comes down to people don't want to be homeless. Part of the problem was when Governor Reagan threw all the people out of the mental hospitals onto the streets, we ended up with more homeless on the streets, which was a wrong thing to do. But there's a lot of middle-class families who, because of the economy, not because of what they want, are forced to be homeless, and that's not right. So it comes down to, let's allocate more money, not just to feed them, but to teach them to feed themselves, so to speak. The highest rule of charity is to help someone to help themselves without even letting them know you did it. So my goal would be, here's the budget, let's even use the churches, have classes on teaching people skills, connect it with business so they can go straight from the training into a job. And then maybe give the business a tax deduction that's staggered so they have an incentive to put the person on, see if they've learned what they're supposed to, and give them a job. It's like President Roosevelt's Tennessee Valley program where he hired people, he put people to work, and that's what we need to do.
Sounds good. Well, there you have it. We'll be right back. We need to go to a little break, but we'll come back with you.
Have you suffered an accident? Rear-ended? T-boned? If you were injured as a driver or passenger, don't let it affect you. Call 661-47-LEGAL. We can help you get your car fixed, get medical attention, and a significant monetary compensation after an accident. Call the law offices of Christopher J. Laria.
Okay, so we're back, and today we have Mr. Steve Fox, who's running for Assembly number 36 for the district number 36. Mr. Fox, what would you like to tell the community here in the district 36?
People only recognize all of us if we get out and vote. That is our power. If we don't vote, they don't recognize us. The important thing is to go to the polls, take a buddy to the polls. If you can't vote, you take your wife, your children, you take them to the polls. You don't think your vote makes no difference. When I won by 145 votes out of 132,000 cast. I barely won. The day before swearing in, a month after elections, as they were tallying votes, it flipped. My opponent already had his name on the door in Sacramento. He had to take it down. He hired his staff. They had to tell him, come down back here. On the Sunday before swearing in, they called me up, and I was in the car with my wife and kids, and they said, by the way, you've won. Can you fly up tomorrow? You make a difference. Your voice needs to be heard. We, all of us, need to go to the polls and let that voice be heard. Thank you. God bless.
Well, there you have it. So go out and vote this November, and make sure you like this video, comment, and share it. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.
Todo el mes de agosto podrás obtener 1000 tarjetas de presentación por tan solo $28.99. ¿Escuchaste bien? 1000 tarjetas de presentación por tan solo $28.99. Visítanos en Pandel Boulevard, en el 950 al Este, Suite E, en el segundo piso, o llama 661-380-6438. 380-6438. Para los mejores artículos publicitarios impresos, confianza y excelencia, Martínez Printing en Publishing.